All right. Good to get started here. Wonderful. Okay. Make sure we're good on that. There we go. Nice. All right. First thing, some pretty interesting news. Um, there was the ceasefire today between Israel and Hezbollah. Not before, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu going ahead and having the IDF, bomb Beirut earlier, which is always interesting. We can go ahead and take a look at what that looked like. So that's actually what the skyline looks like for Beirut right now. I didn't realize this was live. I thought this could be a video of it. Um, but they did bomb Beirut earlier today, and then decided to do their ceasefire, which I believe is going in at 4 a.m. Yep, 4 a.m. Wednesday. So that should be interesting. Hopefully, they actually stick to it. Israel is not known for exactly being considerate or even following the rules in most cases. Um, this is, of course, following Israel killing, I believe, 1 or 2 thousand civilians throughout Lebanon with their pager, the pager explosives. See what the rest of this article is saying here. Ordered and evacuated to stay away for now. They are prohibited from heading towards the villages that the IDF has ordered to be evacuated. Okay, so the ceasefire is in effect actually now over where they are. Israel and Lebanon. So overall, I think this is pretty good news that we have the ceasefire going. I think less people will die, which is always a good thing. I don't want to see civilians dying. I do think it might feed into a more um, focused assault on Gaza, which I think will be a problem and very sad to see in the upcoming months. Um, but I think we stay hopeful. I think this is a good step. Besides that, I wanted to talk about a little bit more about the tariffs that are coming through. I saw this article from the AP. Um, oh god, chest, air in my lungs. Well, hopefully I would have air in my lungs, but I've got like a bubble. Yeah, so Trump earlier today, for people that maybe did not notice, wanted to do a 25% tariff on things from Mexico and Canada. This article doesn't say it as well. Yeah, there it is. Actually, never mind. 10% additional taxes on goods from China. Um, halt the flow of illegal immigrants and drugs into the U.S. As a way to force these countries to halt illegal immigration. Um, I don't understand how that tracks whatsoever. How taxing their goods would stop illegal aliens from coming through the country. They're not coming through because goods are not like because goods are cheap to make. That doesn't make any sense. Um, but high food prices were kind of like a really big issue, which is goes on to say that the high food prices were major issues. Um, Tariffs, even the AP and places like the NPR will tell you, would push costs up more further. These tariffs are not going to be good for anyone. Just to reiterate that. Wow, I didn't even realize these numbers. Mexico supplied 51% of fresh fruit and 69% of fresh vegetables imported by value into the US. And Canada only supplied 2% and 20%, um, which is interesting. I knew we got a lot of fruit and vegetables from Mexico, but that is like the bulk of fruit. I would imagine because it's cheap. All right, what else do we have here? Thank you for pop-ups. Oh, the tariffs are also going to affect our auto industry, which makes sense. Um, yeah, a lot of people's fucking pickup trucks are going to be really expensive now. Maybe we'll see less of those on the road. A good thing that'll come from this. Not to mention all the MAGA merch that's going to get fucking going to the fucking moon after all this. Tariffs on spirits as well, alcohol. Basically anything that is not made in the US is going to get absolutely destroyed. Sorry, I'm reading this part. Okay. So overall, the tariffs, to reiterate, are not going to be doing good things for or anyone at all. It's just going to be a trade war for however long they decide to keep these tariffs imposed for. But I feel like Trump wanted to do this because this is a quick and easy thing you can do to make it look like you're doing something, when in reality you're just kind of fucking people up, kind of badly. There's actually, here's even their response. No one will win, which I think is a very fair response to what is going on. Just tariffing our three largest trade partners is such a weird thing to do in the first place, just because, like we just found out in that other article, 51% of the fruits and 69% of our vegetables come from Mexico. So the tariffs on them are going to affect us directly when we're going to the grocery store, which is just terrible. 25%, 10% goods from China, like we were talking about before. Trump not wanting to get on a phone call with Trudeau, or the Mexican president. I can't remember her name right now. The Scheinbaum. That's her. Yeah, Scheinbaum. Everyone's in. So, President Scheinbaum of Mexico also said that the issue of drugs is a problem of public health and consumption in your country's society, which I would agree with. There is quite a market for illegal drugs in the US, especially things like fentanyl. I also think it's important to point out that still almost all of the fentanyl that comes in to the US is through regular ports of entry and is done by American citizens. Almost all of it. I think it's 94 or 97%, one of those two numbers. So with that in mind, this is not going to do anything, especially like tariffs in general are not going to do anything to protect us from the drug problem that we have. That makes no sense. You don't do tariffs on drugs that come in illegally. General Motors is going to have problems. That's what she's telling the BBC here. China allows disputed that China allows chemicals that can be used to manufacture illegal drugs, including fentanyl, to be smuggled to the US. China has responded to U.S. requests for verifying clues in certain cases to action. This is just him yelling at China for random shit. I don't even know what that means. Tell each other there. Okay. Canada sends about 75% of its total exports to the US. So Canada's going to get absolutely fucked by this, by the way. Just completely. Most of its exports are to the US, so it's just. Oh, man. I imagine a lot of its imports are also from the US. There's not really a lot of other places for it easily. I'm not 100% sure on the details with why the Canadian border would be such a problem for drugs. I could imagine it being a problem. Like I don't see that as like false or anything, but I also don't know. Like I'd probably have to look into that more to really know for sure. Um, the next thing I want to talk about earlier, I was talking about Walmart and their bid to get rid of their DEI policies. So basically, Walmart decided that their DEI policies no longer need to be used after a man known as, I think it's, oh god, what's his, Ronnie Starbuck? Yes, Ronnie Starbuck. Yeah. Let me double check it. I believe Ronnie or Robbie. Fuck. Yes, Robbie Starbuck, not Ronnie. Um, by Robbie Starbuck, he apparently was somehow in talks with Walmart, which, first of all, if you're a fucking political commentator and you're able to talk to Walmart, that's a very interesting amount of power that you have there. Um, Robbie Starbuck is this guy that made a movie called The War on Children, I think. Children. Probably. Yes, that's what it was called. This movie, first of all, fucking terrible. just out the gate. Just start you with. It's basically one of those movies that embodies the idea back when people were like boycotting Target and shit for having rainbow clothing in their stores. It's just basically like you're making our children gay. So it's that kind of ideology, which I don't think I need to go much into that. That's fucking, it's just dumb. Um, but Disney has kind of had their own interesting lawsuits surrounding gender inequality, and it kind of falls into that DEI narrative. So Walt Disney Company agreed to $43.25 million settlement in a gender pay discrimination class action lawsuit, according to a court filing Monday. So Lamonda Rasmussen claimed she was getting paid less than her male counterparts in the same role. What the fuck? Christ, what was that? And then even more female boys joined the case, and a California judge granted a motion for class certification in December of 2023. So the plaintiff relied on the findings of a labor economist who conducted analysis and found that from 2015 to 2022, women at Disney were paid less than similarly situated men, and a female pay penalty of 2%, which, let's say you make about 40,000 a year, right? Fucking add symbol in there like an idiot. About $800 less. So I would say that's about what, 3/4 of a paycheck less, which is fucking crazy. It's just on its own. Should be paid equal. It doesn't really matter how much or how little you're getting paid less. It's still getting paid less. And then Disney disputed it because, of course, they did. We've always been committed to paying our employees fairly, which anyone who works at Disney or has worked at Disney or knows someone who works at Disney, those motherfuckers do not get paid well. Okay, they like sleep in their cars and stuff because they cannot afford homes right now. Like they sleep in the fucking Disney parking lot. So basically, this lawsuit has been going on for a while, and Disney finally settled the lawsuit and decided to pay it. Which I feel like if you are a company that prides yourself on paying your workers well, right? And you believe that you pay your workers fairly and well, I don't think you would settle this lawsuit. I think you would probably want to fight it to, save your image that you pay your workers well. So this settlement is kind of just a admission of guilt to me, at least. Um, well, we're gonna keep on firing right through. Um, Next one here. Some more picks for Trump's White House cabinet. We have. So we have Jameson Greer, an attorney, served under Trump's previous trade representative, Robert Lighthizer, I don't fucking know, Lighthizer, I think, will serve as a U.S. trade representative. So he was the one who imposed the tariffs and combated other unfair trade practices. Jameson Greer, I believe, is just another loyalist that he has. Let's see. That is definitely not him, man. Oh, that is him. Never mind. All right. Take a look at Mr. Jameson Greer. What you these? What you see in New York Times? Jameson Greer, the lawyer, former Trump official, trade top negotiator, Air Force guy, an airman. Oh my God, New York going to kill himself. Oh my God. Yep, never mind. I can't fucking use New York Times if it fuck me in the ass. All right, let's use this instead, I guess. Serve as the U.S. trade. Okay. Oh my God. This is impossible to fucking use. Oh my God. Alright, so this is basically the same. Decades of disastrous trade policy. Okay, so he just seems to be a guy that he had in his cabinet before his last administration that he liked and decided to keep. I think the other guy was the one I was more interested in. Jim O'Neill. Yes, that's why, because he's the Silicon Valley guy. PayPal chief executive. He oh my God, he invested heavily in tech ventures alongside PayPal chief executive Peter Thiel. So Peter Thiel, a Silicon Valley billionaire, also worked with our vice president elect JD Vance, which is some very interesting information. I see this all the time with the Conservative Party. They like to masquerade as these people that don't like big business getting in the way of things. They don't like the government getting in the way of things. They don't like big business getting in the way of things. They like to make themselves. They like to be perceived as for the people, but then they bring in people that are like the top 1% to work on things with them or work alongside these corporate demons to further their agendas that they have. So I just find it interesting that you say that you are for the working class, but you decide to work with people that are not the working class and have never been the working class and will never be the working class. So yeah, I just saw that and it made me think about that. This. Oh, I forgot he have something with the fucking COVID vaccines. Let me see. Critical of the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA should approve drugs after their sponsors have demonstrated safety and let people start using them at their own risk. And prove efficacy after they've been legalized. What? Wait. What is he saying here? FDA should approve drugs after their sponsors have demonstrated safety and let people start using them at their own risk. So I could be understanding him wrong. I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway here. He could be saying like the people that are sponsoring the drugs have deemed it to be safe, so people can, it should be safe for people to use. But it kind of comes across as we should just experiment on these people and just let them use drugs that are not 100% safe yet by just bypassing the FDA and allowing people to just use them if they want, which is crazy to me. Let's see. Oh, there's another one that I didn't even read about yet. Stanford epidemic and physician I'm not even gonna try it. JB, man. We got JD and JB. JB was an outspoken critic of the US government's COVID policies during the pandemic. Great. Published the Great Barrington Declaration in October of 2020. What is the Great Barrington Declaration? Let's look together. Great Barrington Declaration. Infectious disease epidemiologists have grave concerns about the damaging physical and mental health impacts of the prevailing recommended approach we call focused protection. 1 million signatures across all of these countries, which across all these countries is not very many signatures, just to point that out real quick. Oh, I'm fucking stupid. This is the language. Wow, I'm dumb. Just public health scientists concerns damaging. Okay. Policies are producing devastating effects on short-term and long-term public health. Large. Worsening. Wait. So he's supporting this, which is basically it's saying some of the results of the public health problems are lower childhood vaccination, worsening cardiovascular disease outcomes, fewer cancer screenings, and deteriorated mental. So the vaccination rates, right? They're lower because you can't leave to go get your vaccines, but you're also in the house, so you're not getting sick. So I kind of get where that's coming from, where you're not getting vaccinations. But also, the people that he works with are denying that the COVID vaccine helps you. Like, they're anti-vax for the COVID-19 vaccination. So what? Like, I don't know. Higher in the old and firm in the young. COVID-19 is less dangerous than any other. Yeah. Vulnerable false. That all populations with herd immunity by a vaccine. So this is also it seems to be pro the COVID vaccine as well. Great Barrington Declaration. It seems to just be bringing up concerns with public health and mental health, which it absolutely did. But let's see what else the article says. The idea that people with low risk should live normally while building up immunity through infection. Some of the first, including Trump himself, was mistakenly referred to. Oh, I forgot he said fucking herd mentality. That's awesome. JB sued the government after alleging that it pressured social media platforms to censor his opinions. Always happens in these conservatives. They think that media is somehow censoring them, and now all of the media is almost entirely conservative, at least at the top conservative media. Of course, the Supreme Court started with the Biden administration. That's actually pretty interesting. Doesn't happen a lot. Yeah, I did notice that I didn't comment on the herd immunity part of what they were saying in the there's a Great Barrington Declaration. Um, so herd immunity is an interesting argument whenever we were in COVID, just because like it makes no sense. Like why would we not just wait for a vaccine that would do the same thing but safer? Instead, we just want to go get people sick and risk getting the at-risk people, the older people, sick and killing them. Like it makes no sense to me. Anyways, this is the kind of guy we're gonna have underneath RFK, which RFK is already gonna fuck everything up anyway. So I don't think it will matter all that much at the end of the day. Okay. Let's move on to some more interesting numbers, and we'll kind of jump back to the deportations and the migrant deportations. All done. This is from the Pew Research Center, which I thought was interesting. I actually saw this on election night as well. There was an exit poll from Fox News saying that 60% of the US citizens wanted amnesty over deportations. And now the Pew Research Center, which is a nonpartisan research center, is coming out with this, which is most Americans say undocumented immigrants should be able to stay legally under certain conditions. So they should not. Here's the numbers here. Most also say undocumented immigrants should have a way to stay in the country legally if certain requirements are met. Many Americans support actually both deportation and having a legal path to legal status. So people are obviously still contentious with this. So here's the numbers here. Should not be allowed to stay in the country legally. 64% of the adults here. A lot of the almost 80% of the Hispanic community says that you should have a way to stay in the country legally if certain requirements are. Wow. Oh my god, almost 90% of Harris supporters as well, which is not surprising. And then almost 70% of the Trump supporters say they should not be allowed to stay in the country legally. Yeah, among the white population, very split. Which the white population, of the mainly white males, were the ones that kind of decided our election this year. So it's not surprising to see it pretty split there. But everywhere else, I mean, it's not even close. It's very impressive that you can even have these kinds of numbers, I would say, for the Black, Hispanic, Asian community, or just among Americans in general. You usually get like a 60-40 split, and a lot of the times you can get 30% of any American person say fucking anything on a poll. So share of Americans saying undocumented immigrants should be allowed to stay hasn't declined in recent years. So it's actually been going up. So in 2020, go down and then back up in August. All right. Well, where I got so distracted by that. Okay. This is what they're talking about. Say undocumented immigrants should have a way to stay. Say passing a background check should be required. So most people say that you should be able to pass a background check, which I'm going to tell you right now, almost all of them will. Almost all of them. Migrant crime, I'm going to tell you right now, is not a problem in the US. I can't remember the exact numbers. I think it is. Gotta dig in my brain here for a second. It's been a while since I've looked at them. I believe you're. I think it might be twice as likely, 2 or 3 times more likely. It could be even higher than that to be like assaulted or murdered by a U.S. citizen than you are a migrant. So this idea of the migrants are killing everybody or the migrant crime rate is really high is not true. I believe there was in 2023 29 homicides done by migrants in this country. So I would keep that in mind as well. I think these people will absolutely pass a background check. Um, Almost half say that you're required to be have a job, which almost all of them do, by the way. They're not just living off the government. If there's people that think that, they're just not. Americans who say undocumented immigrants should not be able to stay cite breaking the law, fairness, and limited resources as reasons. So here's the thing. I don't think a lot of people understand that the immigration system in the US that we have right now is so broken and so draconian that it is almost impossible to not fucking break the law in our system. Because not only are you trying to immigrate to a country that has so many hurdles that you have to go over and so many places that you can make mistakes in the time of trying to immigrate, that you just end up fucking up somewhere. I believe it's like 70 or 80% of the migrants that we have are people that had green cards that just expired, and they've been here for over 10 years, like working on in our agriculture, because 47% of the migrant 47% of our agricultural force are migrant workers. So it's crazy to say that they're breaking the law. Like I it would also just be better just to give them amnesty, you know? It's unfair to immigrants who entered the country illegally. So I find it strange also that there's this idea that the immigration system is fair anyways. It's just not. And I'm sure those people that did immigrate legally had a lot of help and a lot of financial assistance as well that will just not have access. And then the last one is they take away resources from American citizens, which is also a ridiculous thing to think, because not only do they like run our economy, they like 17% of our economy is run by migrant workers, which is a very large chunk. So just keep in mind when they get deported, there's going to be quite a fucking loss in our. It's going to fuck up our economy really badly. Not only that, but when they do get deported, instead of those farms being able to have really cheap labor, which I think again their wage is like $3.50 an hour, something like that. The farms are going to be forced to pay American citizens that decide to work in the farms, however many decide to work there. They have to get paid at least minimum wage now, so that's what double the salary they were used to paying. So there's going to be a lot of farms going out of work as well. On top of our tariffs that are coming in, that are already making it much harder for us to even bring in goods to, use in farms like seeds and stuff like that. So it's going to be hell when this happens, and it's kind of ridiculous to think that migrants are taking away resources from American citizens. They're not. They contribute a lot to our economy. Another number I like to point to is that migrant workers is either 2022 or 2023. They paid $2 billion into our tax system for things like Social Security and other benefits that we get as American citizens that they do not have access to. They paid about $2 billion into it. So, yeah. Unauthorized immigration policy grew from 10.2 million to 11 million in 2022. I believe Donald Trump said something like he was going to deport 2 to 20 million, right? Yeah. So, yes, so he said more than 20 million people. So, the Pew Research Center, I definitely trust their numbers because their numbers are trustworthy, I would say. 10.2 to 11 million people are the unauthorized immigrant population. So that includes like illegal immigrants, people that are undocumented, people whose fucking visas have expired and they've just been here for 10 plus years doing stuff like contributing to our economy. Um, there's also 3 million immigrants who have temporary protection from deportation and are allowed to be in the country. Um, I hear a lot of people talk about that they're going to somehow differentiate between people that are here legally and people that are not. Um, I don't think that's going to happen at all. Because it didn't happen the last time this happened. It was just gathering, Mexican people onto buses and other modes of transport, bringing them to tents, and then just taking them away from the country, or just keeping them there for however long before releasing them, and also separating families. So that's going to be happening again, just at a much larger scale, and it's honestly just sad, and it's going to fuck up our economy. Um, I like to remain hopeful that there will be enough pushback to this that either Trump cannot get most of his plan done, so he just looks like he, is weak or whatever it may be, just not able to actually follow through on any of his promises, which will be a win in general. Or he's going to fall through and people are going to suffer greatly and still see it the same way. Um, I of course hope that the first one is correct, because that way there will be less impact, but more impact against the Republican Party and conservatives in general. Um, but these numbers were just interesting to me when I saw them. I'm gonna go get some water, and then we're gonna go ahead and look through some of these weird ass people like Charlie Kirk, Michael Knowles, and the demon who is Matt Walsh. Yeah, I'll be back. Okay. Oh, let's listen to these crazy ass motherfuckers, huh? Let's see what they have to say. Okay, this one caught my eye because I just thought it was interesting. Charlie Kirk always has the most interesting titles, you know?
We'll throw some more. Disagreements are welcome. If not, we'll keep it up. Just please tilt the mic
Captions
up.
on there.
You're taller than our usual question.
So what I want to know, so Trump, when he was in office, had at a certain point he had control of both the Senate and the House, and yet there are many issues that are still going on.
Well, so you bring up a pretty
Interesting. Why did he cut off the rest of what he said? Is my question, first of all. I think you can tell there's a cut in there, right?
And yet there are many issues that are still going on.
well.
Yeah. Just cut him off completely on what his entire question to start with, which is interesting.
So you bring up a pretty good point and then a not good point. So let me give you the pretty good point. You're right. Trump should have done more with a unified House and the Senate. So Donald Trump did actually fix the border, and he did it without the U.S. Senate or House. He did it through executive orders and through executive direction. The border, when Donald Trump...
Which, by the way, is a very sneaky way of doing things. Just doing them through executive orders, because then you just, they don't even get to get debated on, or it's a very undemocratic way to do things, but...
Trump was president, had the lowest ever recorded border crossings into our country on the southern border. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it's the highest ever.
Okay. I see this a lot. I hear this a lot. It's very interesting to say something like this and then not give any context as to why. A lot of conservatives like to say that the reason we had such high border crossings is because, you know, they're telling them to come into the country. They're you know, telling them, oh, please come in so you can vote Democrat in our election so we can keep in power. Which, by the way, if they were doing, we would not have lost, you know, or the Democratic Party would not have lost, you know, that House and the Senate and a lot of, you know, governor races that they should not have lost. That would be the explanation for it, that they just love migrants coming in and destroying everything, right? The problem with that is the real reason is because we've just fucked over the countries that are around us so badly that they cannot live in their current states anymore. Like, I don't know if people remember Donald Trump talking about the Venezuelans taking over that apartment complex and just basically causing a bunch of panic over Venezuelan migrants. To anyone that doesn't know about Venezuela, it just makes it seem like they just decided to come here to, you know, fuck shit up. When in reality, they came here because we've completely destabilized their economy. I mean, we came in there, did a coup d'etat like, what, 2 or 3 times now, and just have absolutely collapsed them. Not to mention that Venezuela also only put in together on one commodity, which was their oil. And of course, the U.S. loves oil more than anything else. So, makes sense that we would do that to them. But it's very interesting to just kind of paint a broad brush over all of these things that are basically a fault of U.S. foreign policy. I mean, mainly that's what it is. But anyways, let's let Charlie continue here.
You would give amnesty people in this country. Do you think that's a good idea?
The hell?
Control union-backed Senate.
Why did it skip ahead so far?
He used his political power.
Fair enough. How much do you border when Donald Trump was president had the lowest ever recorded border crossings into our country on the southern border? Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it's the highest ever, right? And so
why did he veto the border bill then?
Okay, well, first of all,
he used his political power.
Fair enough. How much do you know about the border bill?
So the border bill was endorsed by the Border Patrol agents, right?
First of all, that's not correct.
That is correct.
No, they came out and they said they totally denounced it.
Not Harris.
Okay. No. No, they did not, Mr. Kirk. Mr. Charlie Kirk, no, they did not. What happened was they decided to denounce it after it was, one, vetoed, and after Biden started using the narrative that it was, backed by the Border Patrol. Because the Border Patrol loves Trump, because the Border Patrol is a militaristic force that benefits from more funding, things like that. So of course they're going to want someone who wants to fund them a bunch and allow them to continue doing things that they do. So that's the first thing. The person that he's talking about is, oh my god, Judd, I can't remember his first name. But he's basically the president of the Border Patrol Union. And he didn't even flat out say, like, we don't endorse this bill. It's just, I believe he said something like, this doesn't go far enough, basically. And they wanted to see it debated. So that's basically just saying, push the bill forward is what I would interpret that as. But it's, I don't know, it's just weird to pull this narrative that they somehow didn't want this border bill to go through. Which, by the way, I don't like that border bill either. I think that border bill does not help anything. Like, it just prolongs a problem. I mean, it just does. I think in general, our problem is not immigration either. I think we have a problem with, drugs coming through there, but it's, a problem that we have to figure out on our side, not the other side of the border. Anyways.
They didn't endorse Harris, they endorsed the bill.
No, you can look at Brandon Judd's statement. He said that's one of the
Brandon
greatest
Judd.
misinformation
That's
lies.
his name.
But let's talk about what actually it is. That bill.
Pull it up.
Yeah, type in Brandon Judd border bill.
I'm going to type in the Border Patrol endorsement of the bill.
Well, no, Brandon Judd is the one you should look at, okay? So
it's very interesting that he's trying to push him towards Brandon Judd when one guy does not show the entirety of the Border Patrol.
Anyway, what some union said.
It's a guy on their union.
Or doesn't say is
it's the president of their union, but still.
Point. So, but let me ask you this: for getting the Border Patrol's endorsement or not, mass amnesty was in the bill. It would have given amnesty to 10 million.
Border Patrol union-backed Senate immigration bill despite House GOP.
Yes. What did Brandon Judd say about that?
So the National Border Patrol Council.
Right, but that's not the Border Patrol Union. Those are two different things.
Oh my god! Like, does it matter? I mean, we have the Border Patrol Council liking it, but the president of the union doesn't like it. Like, does he represent everyone? Like, I guess he's supposed to represent the union members, right? But even then, I'm not even sure the union members would have supported what he was saying. But I don't think this really matters if the council wanted, like, or even a part of the Border Patrol wanted it. It's still an endorsement, like.
Right.
They still have their endorsement, and again, you can't say they're Kamala's.
Hold on a second. They retracted it soon after.
Kamala.
Just to be clear, though, it would have given.
Why did they retract it, Charlie? It's almost as if they like conservatives more than they like Democrats. So when the conservatives decided to veto it, they were like, "Oh, okay, we don't like this anymore."
Amnesty to 10 million people in this country. Do you think that's a good idea?
Potentially, if they're working in this country.
You would give amnesty.
The majority of illegal immigration, 75% of illegal immigration is overstaying visas.
These are 10 million people that came up. We're not even.
Okay, so he cut it again. Very interesting. I don't know why he keeps cutting this out. Isn't this format supposed to be like equal ground? Like, he's on a college campus, isn't he doing like the Steven Crowder thing? I'm confused. Like, that whole thing was supposed to give the guys that they're on equal footing. They're, allowed to, duke things out without them editing it or, making them look bad. But I don't even think this is trying to do that.
Talking about the overstay visas, we're talking about people that came across the border. 10 million of them, uninvited. What would you do with them? Give them jobs?
If there's room for them to work.
Oh, this is a super important moral distinction, though. And that's fine. We have clarity, not agreement. You think the people in this audience should have to compete against foreigners for jobs. I think that you have a moral obligation to your own citizens to give them jobs.
Absolutely
before the
not.
people.
So
you say
now,
not? Okay.
We don't have to worry that you're making a dilemma that doesn't exist. There are more jobs right now in this nation than there was under Trump.
Hold on a second. First of all, not well-paying jobs, and they're not keeping up. Why do you think that wages aren't keeping up with inflation? Wages aren't keep up with inflation because people in this audience have to compete against people that have come across the border.
Okay. Part of what he just said is true. Our wages have not kept up with inflation, but it is not because we have migrant workers taking our jobs. Like I said, most of them are in the agricultural force where people don't want to fucking work anyways. There are not a lot of American citizens that want to go and work on farms like 14 hours a day picking like fruits and vegetables. Like there's not a lot of American citizens that want to do that. While it is true that wages have not kept up with inflation, it's not because of that. It's because our minimum wage has not been raised since 2009. All right, the minimum wage in the country right now is $7.25. I don't think any human being alive right now could live off of a $7.25 an hour job. Period. I don't think that's possible. Not to mention that we have a lot of overtime laws that make overtime pretty much impossible. So you can't even get paid the extra that you would want to get paid because you'd have to work so much on that kind of wage. But yeah, our minimum wage hasn't been raised since fucking 2009. So that's what I would say is the main driving factor. It's been 15 years probably need a wage bump, especially since inflation has gotten crazier in that time. In that time, inflation has gotten up quite a lot.
But let's just talk about the morals of it. Just the moral. So you would give amnesty for people that are and newcomers that just come in and cut in line.
I want to talk about the practical here, Charlie.
The border bill gave them amnesty. It is practical.
So
that's why Trump torpedoed it.
Is if they can help our nation, then we should let them.
Just let me ask you a moral question, because we can go back and forth. Do you think it should be a crime?
Charlie, I'm not here to talk your talk. I'm here to talk the practical, which
is
no.
I am practical.
And they can work. No, we're not talking about moral here.
The only discussion is the moral. Do you think it should be illegal to come into the country?
That's not what you led with the moral. That's not what I led with. We're not moving this conversation.
No, we're going back to the border bill. Actually, no, I'm not strongmanning it. The border bill said it's...
He heard strongman instead of strawman. I'm not entirely sure that Charlie Kirk knows what a strawman is, but it is definitely a strawman to represent this as a moral argument. I don't think it's moral to deport those people. Even though Charlie Kirk seems to think that it is moral to do so. Yeah, I think that's crazy.
Straw man, not strong man.
I got it. The border bill...
You didn't get it.
Did what for an amnesty? It would have given amnesty to 10 million illegal aliens, yes?
Okay, again.
No.
So you said, why did Trump torpedo it? Because Trump cares about Americans more than foreigners. That's why. Okay?
Why did the GOP endorse it?
The GOP did not endorse it.
It was a bipartisan bill, Charlie. They obviously did endorse it. There were Republicans talking very nicely about it while it was there until Trump had them, torpedo it. You're saying.
Hold on a second. Senator Lankford, who is a traitor to this country, endorsed it. Yeah?
Multiple GOP senators.
Okay, if you're trying to convince me that a bunch of rhinos got behind a bunch of border bill, we're going to talk past each other. Read the bill. I do not think D.C. or Washington, D.C. should pass a bill that says if you come into a country, you're given amnesty. And you disagree.
Why is the word illegal censored? What was that? That's so strange. But he really is hitting on this thing that amnesty is not the right policy here, and somehow deportation is. That's crazy to me. Let's continue. I'm gonna try to stop pausing it so much. It's just he's kind of stun locked right now.
By the way, if they're doing jobs, more the reason to kick them out, because those should be jobs given to Americans.
But the job market is higher now than it has ever been. The stock market is higher now than it has ever been.
Let's hold on. Do you guys think the economy is better or worse?
We're not.
You are living on a cloud, man. Listen to the people of this country.
Good little demonstration of feelings do not care about your facts. Very nice, Charlie. That's awesome. Oh, God. No, I don't think the economy is better than it's ever been. Or anything like that. The stock market is in a good place right now because it always is after elections. the stock market always goes up after elections. It's just a thing that happens. And it's not a good representation of how the economy is. I do think the economy in the U.S. in general is doing better than most other places, easily. But yeah, it's very interesting that whenever conservatives don't have a counterpoint to something, they just ask people that are maybe in their vicinity, like, "Oh, how do you feel about this?" And they just go off of that instead of any sort of factual information, any sort of data. It's very nice, especially since a lot of people are fucking biased.
They can't
including
afford
me.
things. The job market is awful. The economy is terrible. Stop reading the New York Times and start talking to American voters.
Yeah.
And you understand how insane you sound? The economy is better. People are telling you they can't afford stuff.
Yeah, inflation is high now because Trump spent more than any president on the debt in 4-year period.
So wait, it's Trump's fault that inflation is high 4 years later.
As you would come to realize, I'd hope in your role that economies are reactionary forces. It takes time for things to be implemented.
Got it. So nothing is Biden's fault. Everything is Trump's fault.
We'll see Biden's...
What a fucking crazy misrepresentation of this guy's argument. What an insane misrepresentation of this guy's argument. He's not... I don't think he's saying at all that the problems that we have in the economy are not Biden's fault. I think we're going to feel some problems from it. I think he's done a pretty all right job in, trying to help the middle class workers. I think he's done a lot of really bad things as well, though. But it's very interesting to represent that this guy saying that the economy is better than it's ever been, which I really don't think it is somehow an endorsement for Joe Biden. I absolutely agree with him that Trump's policies that he had put in, like his tax cuts and things like that, have absolutely done a number on our economy and our debt, 100%. And we're seeing that now. But it's also been curved by things like the Inflation Reduction Act. So, there's that.
Impact largely in the next 3 or 4 years.
It really is remarkable, the power of propaganda. It's fine. Do you think
you are the propaganda, Charlie?
And Biden are successful?
It depends on what metric. But economy-wise...
No, I actually do agree. They are a huge success in destroying the country. I totally agree.
If you look at economists, right, some of the nations, actually many of the nation's leading economists have endorsed Kamala Harris for presidency because they say that Trump will ruin the economy.
Then why didn't he ruin it the first time?
He did.
Trump ruined the economy?
Again, it's reactionary forces. What Trump did is he handled...
So let me just ask one final thing. What is Kamala Harris's greatest accomplishment?
Kamala Harris's greatest accomplishment? I think it depends on who you ask, but I would say...
You.
Yeah, I would say it was cutting child poverty in half.
She did that?
The Biden administration, her and Biden did that, yes. And that was...
How did she do that?
So the child tax credit, basically from COVID...
Oh, you mean the one from the Trump tax cut?
It's not from the Trump tax cut.
Yeah, it is actually.
No.
Yeah, it's actually from the tax cut from December of 2017. The one that Kamala Harris is running against is the one that you're touting right now.
No, it's not the case at all.
Okay, let's fact check that real quick. Child tax credit, Trump administration. Let's see. I can't spell. Let's take a look. 2016. All right. Real savings and creating more opportunity for all Americans. Okay. Is this from the Trump White House? Yeah, never mind. Hold on. Trump's plan for child credit does not meet working families' needs. AmericanProgress.org. It's from 2017. So, speak on tax cuts for higher earners, but provides no details on the amount of increase. Company full salary package of the losses. Families with children. Two modest but important tax credits. The CTC and the child help families meet the cost of raising children. These two credits are often confused with the service. Increase the CTC, albeit by an unspecified amount, and makes no attempt to change the CDC, which is dedicated to families' care expenses. So it sounds to me like what the tax credits did was actually nothing for children and families. Almost nothing. You can receive up to $1,000 per child each year. I don't know if anybody has children that might see this, but I don't think $1,000 per child per year exactly does much for you. Okay, families who earn less than $3,000 during the tax year, such as a parent loses a job or cannot work, do not benefit at all from the credit. And the refundable portion of the credit phases in slowly, such that many low-income families receive only part of the credit. So I don't know what Charlie Kirk is talking about. The child tax credit that did actually help families is not from Trump at all. Let's go back.
Let me just, you can lie.
No, I mean, you're just totally wrong.
I encourage everyone to look up the child tax credit right now on your phones.
Yeah, the child tax credit was part of
and
the
look
Trump
on
tax
what bill
cut.
it was passed.
It was not.
What year it was passed.
It was during the, it was 2017, literally. Donald Trump expanded
The one we
child
just looked
tax
at was
credit-
2017,
tax
and
cut
it did not do
credit
anything for
2017.
children
Final question.
or
Do
families.
you think that Kamala Harris would do a better job the next 4 years than Donald Trump? If so, why? To make the case, I'm curious.
Okay, so I would agree that Harris would do a much better job than Trump for a variety of reasons. Again, if you look at our current track record, we're coming out of the COVID and the Trump policy. We have the most amount of jobs. We have the highest paying stock market. We have child poverty that's cut in half. We have the most, the tax rate. So we have multiple reasons. And then if you look at the case again.
Holy shit, my man is not only debating Charlie Kirk, but like the entire fucking audience, it seems like. God. This is fucking awful.
Against Trump, you'll see that multiple economists have said that Trump will ruin the economy, right, including Nobel Prize winners.
No, it's just, and this is so, this is actually really instructive, and thank you for embodying it so perfectly, which is that, like, everyday people are no longer buying the rubbish, that everything's fine, everything's great. Young people can't afford homes.
Right, because if you, here in Montana specifically.
No, every state has seen housing prices go up. But not just that, it's that energy prices are up. It is harder than ever to be able to have a family. We have a fertility crisis.
Let's take Montana, for example. Northwestern energy prices are going up under a Republican board of commissioners despite having a budget surplus this year of over $2 billion.
I don't know about that. I'm sure somebody else can comment on that.
All right. Interesting. I'm just kind of gathering the information from both of them talking. I will say that this very obvious college kid, I think he actually does know a lot, and I really think Charlie Kirk is not looking good here at all. I think this kid is kind of just fucking him up because Charlie Kirk is just kind of resorting to looking out in the audience. He's like, do you guys feel like that's true? And they're just like, yeah, because they're all MAGA Republicans in the fucking audience that he has. But I will say this, college kid who's still learning, but seems to have a very good head on his shoulders. I think he is still kind of under the guise that Democrats have those best interests in mind, which is not entirely true. I think a lot of what he's saying is good, but I think he's kind of going too much on, well, things are good right now. The economy is, bouncing back, jobs are coming back, manufacturing's good. He's kind of hitting all these talking points that the Democratic Party hit. But I would agree with Charlie here a little bit to say that's not really how people feel. And you kind of have to speak to how people feel. The problem is that the conservative message is not the one that is going to help people at all. The conservative message is actually what has been hurting people for so long, because so many things have been fucked up by conservatives. So I think that's important. So I think this guy could probably message a little bit better by just pointing to the different things that conservatives have, put in that have actually hurt things. I think him talking about the child tax credit was actually good. I think he should have kept on that kind of line of talking. But besides that, I think we'll just finish this up, and then we'll move on to Mr. Michael Knowles after this.
You would give...
I encourage everyone
to have a family. We have a fertility crisis.
Take Montana, for example. Northwestern energy prices are going up under a Republican board of commissioners despite having a budget surplus this year of over $2 billion.
I don't know about that. I'm sure somebody else can comment on that. But going back to the macro trends across the country, Donald Trump, when he was president, lower income earners saw their incomes go up the most. Young people were flourishing, lowest ever black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian American unemployment. We saw an economic renaissance in America. Lower income, the macro trends across the country. Donald Trump, when he was president, lower income earners saw their incomes go up the most. Young people were flourishing, lowest ever black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian American unemployment. We saw an economic renaissance and a miracle. But here's the point. Here's actually the kicker. Here's how I know.
So it's interesting to credit that to Donald Trump because Obama was in office before that. Obama didn't do everything great, by the way, but that was a lot of the things that Obama did are a direct result of that. They just are. The problem is a lot of people don't feel that way, but that is exactly what happened. There was a lot of economic policies that were in from Democrats. Obama did a lot of things wrong, but one thing was the economy that he actually did well with.
I'm right, is that when American people are asked outside of the economists, 70% of people think the Trump economy is better than actually what's happening now. So you're living on an island.
If you look at
so are people wrong? No. Hold on. Answer the question.
Inflation. I encourage everyone
are these
to look
people
this up.
wrong?
Statistica, great source.
Are these
real wage growth compared to inflation is higher under the Biden administration?
Are 70% of the people here or the country wrong when they say Trump was better at the economy?
Again, look it up. I encourage everyone. Statistica.com. Wage growth to inflation.
Are these people wrong when they say that the economy was better under Trump?
Montana is distinct from the nation itself.
No, it's not.
Reasons. Yes, it is. We have the highest housing increases out of any compared to wage under Gianforte. So compared to average wage growth or average wages, it takes more to buy a house here in Montana than anywhere else in the nation. That includes California. That includes...
No, it's fine. Thank you for coming up. I appreciate it. And it's just, this is the divide, is that 70% of the country is saying, I'm suffering and I'm struggling.
So and then you said, look around us. These are Montanans. Let's talk about Montana.
Well, hold on. Let me finish. They vehemently think you're totally on an island here.
Sorry, I just wanted to let them finish that up there. I think we're done here. But... yeah, it's very interesting to, first of all, the college kid is just fighting an uphill battle because he's just surrounded by people that are, like, yelling at him the whole time, which I think is kind of a community that Charlie Kirk himself kind of cultivates, is these people that are, around to kind of boost his ego a little bit while he's going. But yeah, this is a very interesting thing to see here. I think what I have gathered from this is it kind of reinforces my thought that conservatives tend to just use a lot of emotion to drive people to do things, right? So they point to something that is the problem. They rightfully pick out the problem, which is, people's economic hurt, things like that, but then point them in a direction like immigrants, or point them in a direction like LGBT people, and then tell them this is the source of the problem, we need to fix this. And then nothing ever gets done because it's just scapegoats and distractions, smoke and mirrors over and over again. I think this kid did a pretty good job. I say kid, like I'm not fucking maybe 3 or 4 years older than him. But I think he did a good job kind of holding his ground. I think he missed the point of just, trying to say that the economy is good right now, when I don't think anyone feels that way whatsoever. I think he probably should have said things like, we're going in the right direction, but more needs to be done. I think if he had hit that kind of line, it would have been worked out better. I think Charlie Kirk would have said the same thing anyways, but he probably would have looked better in this. I think generally Charlie Kirk just kind of got absolutely just smacked in this because he just kept reverting to, people's feelings around him and trying to get the crowd to, dogpile him, which they did. But we'll move on from Charlie Kirk, and we'll move on to some Daily Wire people. Let's see what Mr. Michael Knows wants to talk about. Okay. I forgot I wanted to watch this. Oh, man. Matt Gaetz going on fucking Cameo. Get to fucking get a pedophile on Cameo for you. This is awesome.
Then, for Attorney General, Matt Gaetz is out. He has formally pulled out of that race. We'll get to what happens next for Matt Gaetz in a moment. First, though, Trump installs Pam Bondi as his Attorney General nominee. And even CNN, even the legal analyst for CNN, had to admit this woman is eminently qualified.
Pam Bondi is, without a question, qualified to be Attorney General. She's been a prosecutor for 20 years in Florida. For 8 of those, she was the Attorney General of the state. That's a very big, very complicated job, and that level of experience is on par with or better than most United States Attorneys General that we've seen over the past 50 years or so.
Okay, so being qualified for a job doesn't mean you're going to be good at it or that you do it well. Pam Bondi is still a loyalist at the end of the day. So I don't think she's going to be, upholding justice in the Department of Justice. I think she's going to be doing what Donald Trump wants her to do, which is, prosecute people that he doesn't like. Like, I don't see this as being like, oh, she's going to be so good in the Department of Justice. Like, she's just going to be used as a puppet like the rest of the loyalists are. So it's just a weird argument.
On par with or better than most attorneys general that we've seen over the last half century. I think that is right. So
that's
what
crazy.
Does it mean? Why go through all these hoops? Why did we go through the whole Matt Gaetz charade? We'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to tell you about Jeremy's Razors. Go to...
Oh, God, I don't care about Jeremy's Razors, man.
Our Blocking Stuff Plus, order now a Get Complete. And there's this great driver who has retired, unfortunately, but he's an older gentleman who's worked as a lawyer. He's had a long career, and he does this kind of in his retirement. But he's conservative and has really smart thoughts on politics. So I get into the car during the Gaetz nomination, and he says, now I got a question here. Why is it that President Trump picked Matt Gaetz? And I said, well, you tell me first before I give my view. They said, well, it seems to me Trump's a pretty smart guy. He might be doing that sort of thing where you are negotiating, where you're putting out a really provocative nominee to attract all of the attention and all of the controversy. And that way you can seem to concede by pulling him out, but then get through the person that you really want. I said, that was...
Sorry, I can't ignore the fucking just random just use of, like, why do we have fucking Representative McBride in the corner here? They're just going to be completely fixated on McBride, huh? Just the entire time. Oh my God, man.
My take as well, whether this is a conscious or unconscious strategy, whether Trump is really gaming this all out in precision or if he just has a good political gut, I'm not really interested in that. What I care about is, what is the effect of this? The effect of this is Trump's AG nominee, Pam Bondi, who's eminently qualified, is going to sail through confirmation. Would Trump's nominee have sailed through confirmation without the Gaetz fake out? I don't know. I'm not convinced of that.
Yeah, she would have, man. He tried to get Matt Gaetz. Okay. I find it very interesting that this argument completely takes away from the fact that Matt Gaetz had an ongoing investigation for child sex trafficking. Like, the whole reason he tried to put him in there was, I think, yes, for media attention, to try to get attention away from his other picks like RFK, 100%. But I think it was also, like, on the off chance that he got in there, that is the most amount of blackmail you could have on a person. Like, that's, like, he would do whatever Trump asked him to do because of that blackmail, like, 100%. So it's weird.
And it remains to be seen how hard the Democrats go after Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bobby Kennedy, who are now the public enemies 1, 2, and 3 for the Senate Democrats. But as
Sorry, I
for
missed.
the public enemies 1, 2, and to Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy, now, it remains to be seen how hard the Democrats go after Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bobby Kennedy, who are now the public enemies 1, 2, and 3 for the Senate Democrats. But as of now, it seems to be working out well because Pam Bondi is certainly going to get in. What happens next to Matt Gaetz? There's a rumor going around that Matt Gaetz is going to serve in the next Congress.
He's not. He's already come out and said that he's not. When was this video done? The video was done a day ago. He said like 2 days ago when he resigned he was not coming back to Congress. He wasn't going to serve in the current or serve in the next one. He already said he's not doing that.
There's a rumor going around that Matt Gaetz only resigned from this Congress. But in the next Congress, he'll be able to serve, and it will be as though nothing happened. That is not true. Congressman Gaetz said in his resignation he does not intend to serve in.
I misrepresented him. He did say the right thing.
He's totally out. He is now on Cameo. Cameo is this app where you can go on, and there are various notables and celebrities, and you can pay hundreds of dollars to request a personalized video from them. Get it for your buddy's birthday, for a bachelor party, get a pep talk, whatever. Matt Gaetz immediately, upon pulling out of the AG nomination process, he joined Cameo. He initially was charging $250 a video. Now I think it's to over $500 a video, which is good, Matt. Don't sell yourself short. I think that's very smart. If we're going to be capitalistic here, I'm sure there's a pretty good demand for this. But
who the fuck wants to hear pedophile, groomer, like fucking crazy ass Matt Gaetz talking to you on fucking Cameo? Who wants that besides to try to make him say that he's a pedophile? Like who like no one wants this. That's crazy.
Bio here says, I served in Congress. Trump nominated me to be U.S. Attorney General. That didn't work out. Once I fired the House Speaker. and that's it. So it seems to me that didn't work out. Once I fired as I served in Congress. Trump nominated me to be U.S. Attorney General. That didn't work out. Once I fired the House Speaker. and that's it. So it seems to me that the pivot here is to media. And this represents a broader shift in the way our political order works. The line between the media and the politicians has gotten blurrier than it was. There previously was a relatively firm line between the journalists and the politicians. Now, of course, the left never really respected that line, and the journalists were all activists, and they were really the propaganda arm for the politicians. They were much more closely enmeshed. For the conservatives, it was a little more rigid. You had the magazines and the conservative journalist outlets, and you had the elected politicians. Now I think people move in and out a little bit more. As journalism has come to take on the shape of influencing, and as podcasting has overtaken cable news and traditional media, it's a much more intimate environment. It's a much more personality-based kind of environment. You're no longer subscribing to the Wall Street Journal. You are subscribing to the Michael Knowles Show or the Ben Shapiro Show or the Matt Walsh Show. So it's much more personal.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? Only naming the conservatives? What the hell, man? It's almost like you're extremely biased and very right-wing. What the fuck? What's with that, man? Come on.
It bears greater similarities to politicians. And in this case, I think Matt Gaetz is probably going to go out, maybe make a little bit of money in the media, start a podcast. That seems to be what every millennial...
God, I fucking hope Matt Gaetz does not start a podcast, dude. Oh my god, fucking the Groomer podcast, man. The I Fucked a 17-year-old podcast, dude. Oh god, I hope he does not start a fucking podcast, man. Fucking him and Marjorie Taylor Greene just talking about the most insane shit for 2 hours. Oh my god.
White man in America is required by law to do at this point is to have a podcast. So he'll do that. Doesn't mean he won't ever be in elected office again, but people who are holding
Let's hope
he'll get some other position in the Trump administration,
no,
or that he'll be in Congress again or something. I think Gaetz is signaling he's not going to do that. That was a great clip. Now stop, ring the bell.
Interesting that there's no mention of the, case against him from the ethics committee. It's very interesting. All right. go to the last thing that I have for this stream, which is the oh my god, it's just horrible to look at. Mr. Matt Walsh just makes me feel absolutely awful about what I am about to hear from this unhinged man. Okay, let's get this done.
Today for our daily cancellation, I want to bring this full circle and return to the subject we opened the show with. I believe, as you know, that there needs to be a federal ban on gender transitions for children. Actually, I think there should be I think there should be a federal ban on all gender transitions for everybody, children and adults alike.
Coming out with the fucking craziest thing I have ever heard, man. What? Why do you care? What the fuck does this do for you, man? I know Matt Walsh is like this guy that's always been against like gender affirming care. He's like had the most unhinged fucking takes on trans people. But like, what does this do for anyone, man? Besides just feed into this like transphobia that people feel. Like, this isn't a never-ending cycle, by the way, of transphobia to have going. Like, it just is. You're never going to stop. You're always going to think about it. You're going to think everyone is trans, even if they're not. It's oh man, this is gonna be so much fucking brain rot coming.
It should not be legal for a doctor to sexually mutilate anyone, no matter how old they are. Doctors should be legally barred from performing Frankenstein medical experiments on their patients. And it's especially evil to...
Taking hormones is not a Frankenstein experiment, first of all. A lot of trans people don't even get, like, gender-affirming surgeries. Like, they just don't. Like, the bulk of them don't. They take hormones and they do other things. Like, not everyone's going out and getting fucking top surgery or bottom surgery. It's also not this easy to get top surgery or bottom surgery. It takes forever. So you have to go through, like, therapies in a lot of situations. And you have to go through talks with doctors to make sure it's something you really want to do. It's not like you just get to walk into the doctor's office and they just chop your penis off for you. That's, like, not how it works.
Do when the patient is 13 years old, but it isn't suddenly okay.
Doesn't happen.
Medically valid if the patient is 33 years old. However, I do believe in taking what you can get, you know, in any fight, working incrementally towards your ultimate goal. And all that means is that you have to choose the best available option at any given moment. A full ban on medical transitions for everybody is not available right now politically, so we'll start with the most important thing, which is protecting children. On that end, I want to deal with the most common objection I still hear to my position and the position of all sane people that child gender transition should be banned across the board. And it's not even an objection, really, so much as essentially a delaying tactic. It's kind of an argument for stalling, for refusing to charge ahead and do the right thing. And I've heard this argument a lot. I anticipate that we'll probably hear much more of it. It'll be the main point of resistance from some Republican members of Congress to the idea of passing a federal ban. So I think it's worth addressing here again. And in order to address it, I'm going to use this tweet from somebody named David Crabb to frame the argument. He responded to me on Twitter yesterday with this point. I have no idea who this guy is. He's not anybody important. It doesn't matter. But he lays out the argument that I want to refute, if you can even call it an argument. But again, hear this all the time. So here's what he says. Quote, right, let's talk science, real science, not the ideological hand-waving Walsh is peddling. I've read the studies, I've seen the data, and here's the truth. The long-term effects of gender-affirming care on children are anything but settled. That's the problem. Anyone pretending we have complete understanding of the consequences is lying to you. When it comes to irreversible interventions, hormone blockers, surgeries, or sterilization, we have...
It's interesting that this is what he chooses to respond to. Who the fuck is David Crabb, man? Who is David Crabb? Is he a fucking doctor? The first thing that pops up is actor. That doesn't look like fucking David Crabb. I could be wrong. This doesn't look like David Crabb he's talking about. Who the fuck is this guy? Just a random fucking person? Like... Or is it this guy? Okay. He is a fucking... Is this him right here? No. This is just a random guy on Twitter. Lead to a British march for a new British Renaissance. This is just a random guy from the UK. Why is this the guy that you decide to use your arguments for? That's so weird.
We have a duty to stop and scrutinize before charging ahead. Protecting children means ensuring we don't sacrifice their future health, fertility, or mental well-being on the altar of ideology. Science demands caution, not dogma. Gender dysphoria is real and deserves compassion and treatment, but pumping kids full of hormones or steering them towards permanent surgeries before they're even old enough to vote, that's not compassion, that's reckless.
Oh my god, even this guy is still going after these fucking things that don't exist, man. Fucking gender-affirming surgeries for children are so incredibly rare, there's not even like a statistic for it. They're so rare, especially ones where you like get top or bottom surgery. A lot of the surgeries that you would get for gender-affirming care are not even for kids that are trans. They're for straight kids. Like, gender-affirming care does not only apply to trans people. It applies to straight people as well. They get those surgeries too, so it's going to hurt them as well when you decide you want this banned, right? So, like, this guy is also even saying, like, we're pumping kids full of hormones or, you know, giving them permanent surgeries. That's just not true. It's not a thing that happens. Like, it's so incredible. Like, there's maybe, like, 10, like, ever that I could even think of in, like, a statistic I saw once, like, years ago. Like, this isn't a thing. God damn, man.
Reckless. If Walsh were serious about protecting kids, he'd lead with nuance and evidence, not sensationalist rhetoric. Instead, his approach polarizes the debate and shuts down honest inquiry. So let me be clear. We're not saying never, but we are saying not now. Science should guide policy, and right now the science says slow down. No, I'm saying never, David. I'm not saying slow down. I'm saying stop. I'm saying stop and never start again. That's what I'm saying. That's what those of us who are sane and have functional moral compasses are saying.
Oh, God, man. Okay, it's rant time. It's about rant time, Mr. Matt Walsh. Okay. I fucking hate the framing of this argument. I kind of knew I was going to get mad about Matt Walsh, by the way. I just don't like the guy in general. God, the framing of this argument that, like, we're the sane people because we want to do penis inspection day. We are the sane people because we want to look at kids' genitals and make sure that they did not have, you know, gender surgeries. We want to make sure that we're in the doctor's office when they're talking to the doctor so that they never can talk about their gender dysphoria ever. We want more trans kids to die because we are uncomfortable with the idea that some woman that we're looking at on the internet is actually a man. It's just so, it's gross, man. It just is. Like, why? There's just such a weird movement for people to just stop people from living their lives properly and, you know, receiving medical care. I think really the main problem I have with this argument, besides, you know, just being completely against transphobia and in all of the ways that it shows up, is this does nothing for the average person. It just doesn't do anything. Like, all you're doing is just making it to where, like, trans people can't exist. Which, what is that? That just, you're just suppressing, what, 0.8% of the population? Because it feels good for you, I guess? It gives you a little power trip? That's literally it. It does nothing for the economy. It does nothing to actually go after the material conditions that you feel. It just doesn't. So it's just it's just fucking trans people over because you felt like it. That's what it is. All right, let's listen to the rest of his weird fucking argument that he has going here. Okay, I went a little bit too far. Okay, here we go. Oh, yeah, man. Just fucking. I guarantee you he has no sources. It's fucking shit either. It's just blatant transphobia forever, man. Oh my god. Oh my fucking. Yeah, no sources, nothing to even back up the numbers that he just said. It is absolutely not thousands of children that receive gender affirming surgeries or even gender affirming care. Like, oh my god, man. So stupid. Like, you can't even barely get elective surgeries whatsoever before you're 18. You think you're going to be able to walk into a doctor's office and get fucking a top surgery or a bottom surgery? For, like, on the low? Like, what is, no. Like, that doesn't happen. Oh, man. Let's just finish this out.
That's not compassion, that's reckless. If Walsh were serious about protecting kids, he'd lead with nuance. You don't want to be on their idea to sterilize and castrate children.
Oh, Jesus.
The paradox is that settled science, and yet, who at the same time want to take kind of the middle of the road approach here, the kind of slow down approach to gender butchery. The paradox is that the so-called experts, many of the major medical organizations, many of the largest and most allegedly reputable hospitals in the country, all came out within the last few years and said that, yes, it's a great idea to sterilize and castrate children.
Wait.
Many of the largest and most allegedly reputable hospitals in the country all came out within the last few years and said that, yes, it's a great idea to sterilize and castrate children.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. No, that's not what they said at all, man. They said gender affirming care does good for children that have gender dysphoria. That it has positive impacts on their lives. Because it does. There's not like a fuck ton of data right now because there's not many trans people in the world. So you don't really get a lot of data on that. There's even less trans kids that are receiving gender affirming care like that. Like, way less. So the data is not super broad right now. Also him talking about settled and unsettled science is very interesting to me. Yeah, of course it's unsettled because we don't have enough data yet to settle it. So instead of just allowing any more research to go in on, patients that have been vetted properly to, be allowed to do these things in the first place, which is a very small margin to be able to even get data on this. It's just a ridiculous. It just is. Like, of course there's not enough done on it yet. It's not a thing that happens.
They didn't just say that it's a great idea, they've been doing it. So if your position is that the science isn't settled and we should slow down and do more studies, then you are already contradicting the so-called experts. You are already in a position where you don't trust them. Let's talk about something that affects all of us, taxes. The October 15th deadline is passed.
Oh, God, ads.
But before dollars in tax, Americans like you won't make a website you can save. If you take any position other than, yes, let's start pumping chemicals into 10-year-olds who say they're the opposite sex. If you take any position other than that, you are now officially staking out ground in direct opposition to many of the organizations that claim to represent science. And you should. Because those organizations have destroyed their credibility in a way that can never be repaired. But what that means is that you can't then fall back on the let's do more studies thing, because who the hell do you think is doing the studies? Who's funding them? It's the very organizations and groups whose fundamental credibility you have already rejected, and for good reason.
So, it sounds to me like he is saying all of these medical organizations that are looking into the very, very small amount of data that we have about trans kids receiving gender affirming care are somehow trying to create a new, like, generation of children that are all trans and are replacing, like, cis people or something. Like, this is just insane. Like, complete insanity. Like, so deep in the transphobia hole. It's crazy. I knew Matt Walsh was, like, extremely transphobic, but I did not realize the extent. This is insane.
Because, by the way, we could talk about how, well, there is not really a consensus of the experts. There's plenty of organizations who don't agree with this, and we talked about it in the opening. But it's also true that, especially in this country, a huge number of the once reputable, once we thought credible medical organizations have come out and endorsed this. Like, we are disagreeing with a huge number of medical organizations and so-called medical experts and hospitals. It's important to acknowledge that. It's scary to acknowledge it because then you're acknowledging that, wow, these people we can't trust them about anything. I mean, they got this wrong. How could we? They think that there are scenarios where we should try to turn a boy into a girl. How can I listen to you about literally anything? I mean, if I go to you and you tell me I have the flu, how can I even trust that?
Comparing gender identity to illness or just disease is disgusting, just so you know. That is such a gross misrepresentation. Those things are not comparable whatsoever.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the situation we're in. Hate to tell you.
No, you don't hate to tell me.
None of that even matters anyway, because studies aren't necessary. I don't need any study to tell me that we shouldn't castrate and sterilize children. In order to study such a practice, we have to first do it to children and then wait around to see how it turns out. That's how you study it. Children are not lab rats for medical experimentation. If you are a decent human being with a functioning brain, again, you understand intuitively that mutilating children is always wrong 100% of the time under any and all circumstances. The other side of this debate hasn't come up with an even halfway plausible reason why it would ever be medically necessary to inflict this treatment on children, even in theory. Their entire argument is, hey, maybe it will help kids in some unspecified way if we permanently disfigure them. Let's do it to thousands of them and find out. If I have to explain to you why that reasoning is deeply flawed, you are not a serious person.
I'm sorry, I missed part of what you just said.
Maybe it will help kids in some unspecified way if we permanently disfigure them. Let's do it to thousands of them and find out. If I have to explain to you why that reasoning is deeply flawed, you are not a serious person.
Matt, your argument is deeply flawed because your numbers are coming out of your fucking ass, my friend. Those are so... That is just ridiculous. Those numbers are not real at all. He's just creating them out of thin air. It's insane.
And you're not even worth talking to. We got into this position in the first place because so many people were not willing to listen to the testimony of their own common sense. Maybe it's because they were too afraid. Maybe it's because they didn't care enough. Because they weren't the ones being mutilated. Because, something tells me that they would not have accepted this logic if it applied to them. Okay? If the medical establishment came to you and said, we think it'll benefit you if we lock you in a cage and feed you dog food for the next 6 months. Something tells me you would not say, well, okay, I mean, the science isn't settled on that yet. It might benefit me in some unknown way. Let's go ahead and do it and see how it turns out.
I forget what fallacy this is, but this is a logical fallacy that he is using right here. Just comparing two things that are not the same on any level. Comparing a, problem of gender identity and gender affirming care to putting someone in a cage and feeding them dog food is not comparable whatsoever. I forget what fallacy it is, but it is a logical fallacy. So we'll just keep that in mind while he finishes it out.
More data is needed, after all. You wouldn't say that. You would say, no. What? I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? No. The medical establishment, now they might rightly point out to you that well, you have no proof. You have no studies of your own. You can't prove that it won't benefit you to be locked in a cage and fed dog food. You can't demonstrate with data and research that such a procedure would be unhelpful. You've never even locked any other person in a cage and fed them dog. How do you know? They could make that point, but you would not be persuaded because your basic common sense tells you that there is nothing to be gained from something like that. You know ahead of time, with no data, with no research, with no studies, that a countless number of things are harmful and bad and shouldn't be done. There's countless, infinite number of things that you know without a shred of data and without one study, you still know it's bad. Have you ever read a study that proves it's a bad idea to bathe in gasoline? Or to shave with a chainsaw? How much research has been done on those questions? The science isn't settled, folks. How can you know for sure? Well, you know because you aren't insane.
I mean, the easiest rebuttal to what he's saying is that there is not a mass movement of people that have a desire to shave with a chainsaw or bathe in gasoline, but there is a group of people that have a very strong desire and very intense emotion towards the feeling that they are in the wrong body, that they do not feel comfortable in their skin. There is a group of people that feel that way very strongly and actually have, it is a detriment to them that they don't receive the gender affirming care that they need. There is research for that. It's also that there hasn't been hundreds or thousands of years where people have felt this way, where gender has existed in this way, where that there's been trans people forever. There's not been people that wanted to bathe in gasoline forever or shave with a chainsaw forever. Like that kind of person doesn't exist. So, very interesting, Matt Walsh. Let's let you finish whatever your crazy shit you're saying here.
Because you are a human being with a mind and a basic capacity for discernment. That's how you know. That's also how we know that chemically castrating and sterilizing children is an act of abject evil. We know it because we know it. Because to not know it is to be insane. That's all we need to say, or should have ever needed to say. If not for people like our friend David and the many people like him, who are all today, unfortunately, canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going...
So the real evil here is that you are a man with 3 million subscribers on your YouTube channel going after a group of people that does not even equal your number of subscribers whatsoever. You're going after a group of people that cannot defend themselves, especially children, absolutely cannot defend themselves, and demonizing them and bringing a brigade of people against them. That is the real evil here, Matt. I'm glad that is over with. I don't like Matt Walsh whatsoever. I think his opinions are crazy. I'm going to finish off the stream here looking at the poll numbers, see the election results of the Mississippi runoff. My prediction is that we're in deep red state, so the deep red people probably won, but we'll see by how much. Oh my god, that vote is... Oh my god, it's so close. Holy shit. Wow. Wow. Oh yeah, so this race is not even close. I think Jennifer Schlegel messed up when she tried to use the more personal attacks. I think that really did not rub people the right way. Oh man. But this race is so incredibly close. I don't think it would be anywhere nearly as close if Jennifer Branding did not have the fucking, endorsements that she has from like the Republican Party and things like that. Wow. So this race I'll have to check again later, but wow, it's very, very close. Besides that, I think the stream was pretty successful. We didn't get fucking taken down this time. Oh my god, Inception. Which is always nice. If anybody's still around, it's very nice to be able to sit here and just yap at you for a while. I'm going to go ahead and end. I'll probably be doing this again pretty soon. Go ahead and hit